Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's live stream. I'm Rhonda Anstead, and I am really excited to be talking to you today about what might be holding you back from making the kind of change that you want to make in your life. And more importantly, what can you do about that? So basically, I think it's useful to start out with an understanding that although there are some common reasons why people are scared to make changes or don't make changes, a lot of these reasons also will depend on kind of your personality type, your history, and as well as, just this fact that we are human being and we're hardwired often to approach new situations in a specific way. And so this is one of the reasons why doing some self-exploration and self-reflection can be really important, not only when you're making a career change, but just kind of in general. But this is why in my career design studio, we start off with who are you? We start off with the raw materials, your personality, your preferences, your interests, your goals, your values, all of those kinds of things. And the more that you know about yourself, the more you can work with your strengths to set yourself up for success, but also to understand the obstacles you might put in your own way or make them bigger than they actually are, and different ways that you might be keeping yourself stuck. And then that helps us understand what are some of the things you can do to get unstuck. So that's a lot of what we're going to be talking about today is what might get you stuck and how you might get unstuck. So one of the things that I'm going to basically frame this conversation around is this concept of personality types. And so if you have gotten started in my career design studio and done your career assessment, then one of the activities is my personality results. And even though it gives you a little snapshot of 4 different personality types, it doesn't really go into that very much. And that's because there's a lot that we could talk about. There's a lot of science behind it. There's a lot of research and things that can't be easily encapsulated in my career design studio, but can be helpful to understand about yourself. And so one of the things, so just to draw back a little bit, there are 4 personality types that are related to your biology. And these things count or make up or influence between 40 and 60% of your personality. So they're not the only factors. Your experience, your history are also a part of it. But these are kind of drivers that we all have to a greater or lesser degree, that all living things have to a greater or lesser degree, and that have helped us to be incredibly successful as human beings. And in general, a person will be stronger in 1 or 2 areas than another. And although that's not universal, but at the same time, we all have these 4 personality traits, these 4 drivers. And so we've got the connector, and those are people that tend to be fairly empathetic, but also, so as well as making connections between people, they also make connections between ideas. And so often have kind of like a high level view of things and how things work together. And so if you're a strong connector, you often can take on other people's perspectives fairly easily. And that's one of the ways where you're able to draw connections between different ideas. And so we've got the connector, we've also got the achiever. And so the achiever, those are the people that really, they tend to be the type A personalities, the type of people that like to work hard, often like to play hard, and but are interested in things like milestones and status and salary and kind of tangible things to strive for, and can be very focused on external rewards. And so that, again, we all have a lot of this, different amounts of this in us, but achievers tend to be really focused on reaching the next goal. The pillars of society are the people that really make sure that there's a structure in place to keep community going, to keep communities safe. And so pillars are the ones who get things done, who kind of make sure that that we have processes in place for dealing with certain circumstances, and they really are what will keep us connected as a community. And then finally, we've got the adventurers, and they're in some ways the opposite of the pillars, and they are the ones that are like courting danger and risk and are out there and exploring new things. Their drives are around novelty and new experiences. So again, these are all biological systems that we all have to a greater or lesser degree, but all of these come with both strengths and challenges. And so what I want to do is just give some overviews of some common challenges with making changes and making career changes from the perspective of these personality types. And so both connectors and pillars can get caught up in a sense of perfectionism. And the perfectionism might look a little bit different from a connector to a pillar. And often a connector is like, okay, I need to like maximize every single thing that I have and get myself into a situation where I am making a difference in X, Y, and Z ways, and that everybody's happy with everything that I'm doing. And so we can get into kind of overwhelm and get stuck in this. If it's not exactly right, then I'm not going to do it. And pillars, again, can get into that attitude. If it's not exactly right, I'm not going to do it. And often they get focused on systems, on how we need to go forward. And if I can't figure out every single step from A to Z and know exactly how I'm going to get there, then it's going to be really difficult for me to get started. And so there's different forms of perfectionism, but this is a really common trap. And a lot of it also comes from managing the unknowns, and that making a career change, we don't have complete control over it. We can only do what we can do. And there are always going to be blind spots and black boxes, and that we're not sure how to get there. And so part of the process is how do we navigate and manage ambiguity? So we'll talk about that a little bit. Often achievers can get caught up in looking like a fool. And so again, since achievers tend to be so externally driven, if we are scared that we're going to make full of ourselves or make a mistake in a very public way, or say, yes, I'm going to be the next president of the United States, and then realize, oh, yeah, can't really do that, then that is a way that we can get in our own way. And so often it's really important to understand that this is a process, that this is not about being the best career changer that you can be. This is not about doing this, beating the odds, or doing this faster than anybody else. That the point is knowing where you want to get to, and then making continual progress moving toward that point. The other fear that I see really common with people, especially if you're having difficulties in making a decision about what you want to do next, there can be a fear of getting stuck in a rut. And this is something that's really common for adventurers. And so to take a job can mean that your days start looking the same, and you're never going to be able to get out of that. You're going to feel trapped. And so often adventurers will be impulsive in their career decision making and not incredibly strategic, or will not make a decision because of that fear, and then will just take the next job that comes to them and then realize, oh yeah, I got stuck anyways. So part of the career design process is for you to use your personality to create your future. And as you might suspect by me talking about this, that is going to look different depending on who you are. And so it's useful to, when you get advice, when you read something, when you think about different ideas, to ask yourself, is this something that fits me? That's also really good advice for jobs. Is this particular job going to fit me? And the best way to be able to answer that question is to know who you are and what you want. And again, who you are and what you want is going to look different. So for a pillar, that could be a very specific job title and a very specific career path, and that you know exactly what you're going to be doing 5, 10, 15 years from now. And it's very easy for you to imagine that. It's a very linear process. And now that you know what that is, you're just going to check the boxes and keep on going. For the adventurer, who you are and what you want would be variety, mystery, surprise. And so you want to be able to set yourself up for situations that do give you some of those elements. So again, the adventurer's career design is not going to be as detailed or as clear cut as it might be for someone else. That's fine. It's just know who you are and what you want, and how you can best situate yourself to reach your goals, whatever those are. So a couple of other things that come up that aren't necessarily related to a personality type. And that is when you've been in a situation where that hasn't been a good fit for you, and that you are just kind of beaten down because of that. And so a lot of people that I work with and that come to me don't have a sense of their worth and value, because sometimes it's just having a horrible boss that's very hypercritical, but often it really is that you're in a situation where you are forced to work from your weaknesses rather than your strengths. And so you never quite feel comfortable in your job. You never feel like you're really thriving or doing a good job in that, because it's not a good fit for you. Even if you can do it, even if you can do it well, it's still going to drain you, and especially if you're not able to bring your strengths into the process, you often end up with a really warped sense of yourself and feeling like, well, if I couldn't do this here, how am I going to do a good job anywhere? And so that's, again, it's really useful to know that there are places for you where your particular strengths, your talents and abilities are going to shine, and where you're naturally good at that kind of work. And just a really brief example, international work and international development has been really important to me for as long as I've been thinking about what do I want to do as a job and as a career. And so I, majored in international studies as an undergrad. I joined the Peace Corps mid-career because I realized I was in the domestic sphere. I wanted to get back into the international sphere. And then I ended up, after Peace Corps, working for a couple of NGOs and doing development and project management. And I was fine at those jobs, but those did not build on my strengths. So I'm not the most organized person. I am not the most detail oriented. I am a connector. And so I am really good at thinking about the big picture. I am really good at empathizing with people. I am really good at finding ways to overcome problems, and especially on an interpersonal and interpersonal perspective. And so career coaching has ended up being a really fabulous fit for me because it builds on what I'm good at, and I'm more comfortable here. I enjoy what I do. And it hasn't taken me very long to feel confident about what I'm doing because I'm naturally good at a lot of this stuff. And so that's really where we want to get you, is where can your inner strengths really shine and allow you to be like, oh yeah, I'm good at this, I can do this. And then that turns into a virtuous cycle where then you're able to make a contribution, people are seeing that, then you're able to get promoted. And that's really what we want to set you up for. And so I think that what's important is, like I said, to know yourself, to understand what are the areas where you can lean into in this job search, to really lean on your strengths, and where are the areas that you don't want to do too much of that because you might get burnt out on it. And so one of the things that I want to show you in my career design studio is basically the area where we really talk about a lot of this stuff. And so when we're talking about doubts, then we're kind of talking about that inner critic. And in my career design studio, let me expand this a little bit. Did that work? So we want to, my art critic area is the place to go to when you're having doubts about yourself. And basically, I just want to show you a few activities that you can do that are related to certain personality types. And again, we all have these different personality drivers in us. So even if I say, this is really good for a connector, if this is something that sounds like, oh yeah, this would be helpful, then dive into that. And for the people that aren't necessarily super strong in any one of those personality drivers, then you can step into the activity that's going to best fit you in the moment. And so again, being mindful and aware of who you are, and also knowing that can change from day to day and moment to moment. What's going to help me right now is a way to think through, all right, so I want to make a career change. How do I do it? What's my next step? So I want to start. So what you see here are, looks like 8 different activities that can be helpful if you're feeling stuck. You can also come here if you're feeling low and you want to boost your mood. If you're feeling like, oh my gosh, why did I make that stupid decision when I was 14 years old? That has now affected me here. Then click on activities to overcome regret. If you're really struggling to believe in yourself, then activities to overcome doubt. And if you're just feeling kind of low and demotivated, then activities to rejuvenate and refresh can be really helpful. But if we're talking about how to get you unstuck, one activity that I like as a connector is the waving a magic wand. And pretty much all of these start with some deep breathing, some awareness, and this is to kind of to calm your nervous system so that you're not coming into this from a place of reactivity and fear, but from a place of wakefulness and curiosity. And so all of these activities kind of start with a little meditative process. But waving a magic wand is really thinking, if everything just worked out perfectly, what would I be doing 10 years from now? So this is really helpful for us with the perfectionist tendencies of, okay, I've got to do it all. How am I going to do it? Let's put that vision 10 years from now so that you're not thinking about how do I get this all tomorrow, but what would this look like if everything just fell into place? And then from there, you start working backwards. So what all happened to set everything up? And keep coming back until you get to, and so what did I do tomorrow? And so that might be, and then tomorrow I picked up the phone and called somebody who could help me figure out this one thing, or I journaled about it and got some clarity about what I really needed to do next. And really what we're trying to get you to is, what is a next step? So connectors, magic wand, that might be an activity that is helpful for you. For achievers, I really think you should kind of lean into those external rewards. And so this is something where if you think of a process that you need to implement that's going to lead you to what you want, it's often difficult and you get demotivated along the way. So once you have a process and different steps and milestones, then come up with a list of how you're going to reward yourself when you accomplish that milestone. So you don't want to wait until you get a job before you reward yourself. You want it to be a part of the process. And so think through, what are different things. I definitely recommend healthy, positive, and for your cheap. And so So sometimes that could be, you know, playing your favorite song, taking a walk, you know, anything that you can do that gives you joy in the moment. So this is helpful for a lot of different situations and a lot of different personality types, but I think that this is really effective for achievers. Okay, so for adventurers, one of the things that's really useful is to make this process a game, to make it fun, to make it surprising. And so that's one of the things to kind of contemplate is what can I do today to make this process of the job search more interesting, more fun. One activity that I actually like for everybody is to create a fun failure for yourself. And so when you make a quote mistake, which I like to reframe as a learning, but that still feels really bad in the moment, when you do something and it ended up not as you expected, or you didn't do what you thought you were going to do, if there is a way to immediately in that moment to turn that around from, oh, I really want to go hide in a corner and I can't believe I did this, to laughing it off. And so me growing up in the 90s with The Simpsons, like my fun failure has always been just the Homer Simpson dope. And when I remember to do that, it is fantastic how that transforms my mood from feeling like an idiot to laughing at myself and being like, all right, so what can I do? What can I do differently? How can I learn from this? How can I go forward? And so just spend a little bit of time thinking about, all right, how do I transform those inevitable ouches into something that's going to make me laugh? And then finally, for the pillars, and again, I think this is useful for everybody, but this concept of just one thing. And this is another way of getting us out of our heads and out of our perfectionism, and to think instead of what's the absolute next step for me to do? And it could be as simple as turning on my computer. And so for pillars, my career design studio also has this, my artist assistant, and this is basically a task tracker. And so as you can see, I created a task to, spend 30 minutes updating my resume, all of those kinds of things. But you can, once you think of, okay, what can I do next? Then turn that into a task, set up time on my calendar to do the work, and then do that. And then you can complete your task. And so pillars tend to do really well with task lists. And so if it's more useful for you to write it down and then cross it off, write it down and cross it off. But what is important for you is to get a sense of moving forward, and to not get so caught up in making it perfect as to making it enough. So I hope that this was helpful in getting a better understanding of what are some obstacles that so many of us face when we are trying to make a career change, and how your personality plays into this, and what are some things that you can do personality-wise to help you overcome some of these obstacles. So if you have any questions about your particular obstacle or situation, then in the comments below, please ask that. Extra bonus if you include your personality type or types, And and also feel free to respond to each other. And so if you've got some ideas about how people can overcome obstacles, please feel free to share them. We've got other career professionals who are going to be reading your comments and commenting on them. And in the meantime, know that you don't have to do it all. You don't have to do it all now. You don't have to do it alone. That this process especially is better when we do it with other people who are on the same path that we are. And so ask for help, keep moving forward, and know that you can create an exciting, meaningful, and fulfilling future for yourself. Excellent, everyone. Thanks for stopping by, and I will see you all next week.